The congressional hearing room was buzzing with reporters, flashing cameras, and the hushed chatter of aides moving quickly between long rows of seats. It was another one of those televised spectacles, where politicians seemed more interested in soundbites than substance. On this particular day, the star of the show was Representative Maxine Waters, a woman known for her fiery rhetoric and willingness to use every moment in front of the microphone to land a punch. Across the aisle sat Kash Patel, the former Pentagon chief of staff and longtime national security official, called in as a witness for his insights on intelligence failures and policy missteps. Patel wasn't a stranger to heated exchanges. Over the years, he had built a reputation as someone who stayed calm under pressure, who didn't flinch even when political heavyweights tried to corner him. That calm, some said, was his most dangerous weapon. The cameras were live, and the hearing was already trending on social media. Maxine Waters adjusted her glasses, leaned into the microphone, and began. Her tone was sharp, almost mocking. "Mr. Patel," she said, dragging out the syllables of his name as though announcing the villain of a play, "you sit here and claim to have been a so-called defender of truth in your time in government. Yet, the record shows that you played fast and loose with intelligence. Many people question your credibility. Tell us, why should the American people trust a single word you say?" A murmur went through the room. Her words were carefully chosen, calculated not to ask a question, but to smear. She wanted Patel rattled, visibly uncomfortable, so the clip could be played over and over on cable news. Patel leaned forward slowly, his expression neutral, almost relaxed. He tapped his pen once against the table, then folded his hands. His voice, when it came, was calm but carried an edge of firmness. "Congresswoman Waters," he began, "you're correct about one thing. The American people should question everything they're told, whether by government officials, media outlets, or even members of Congress. That's why facts matter. And the facts are clear. Every decision I made was documented, vetted, and in service to the security of this country. If you want to discuss credibility, perhaps we should start with ensuring this hearing is about substance, not about viral clips." The room grew quieter. Reporters raised their eyebrows, sensing something brewing. Waters smirked, clearly not satisfied. She leaned closer. "Oh, Mr. Patel, please don't lecture me about substance. I've been serving this nation long before you came into the picture. You can dress it up however you want, but you and your allies distorted intelligence, misled the public, and undermined trust in our institutions. Isn't it true that you've been more loyal to certain political figures than to the truth itself?" Gasps rippled across the audience. The attack was pointed and personal. A few of Waters' colleagues nodded approvingly, as if she had delivered the knockout punch. But Patel didn't flinch. Instead, he allowed a small smile to tug at the corner of his lips. He picked up a folder from the table, flipping it open with deliberate slowness. Inside were neatly organized documents, charts, and reports. He slid one of them toward the microphone. "With respect, Congresswoman," he said, "I anticipated this line of questioning. You're accusing me of distorting intelligence. Here is the declassified record, signed off by bipartisan oversight committees, showing that the intelligence assessments I worked on were accurate, verified, and consistent with what we presented at the time. If you'd like, I can read portions into the record, so that the American people watching at home can see the truth for themselves." He began reading aloud, each line crisp, each fact irrefutable. Numbers, dates, signatures from officials across the aisle. The kind of evidence that was difficult to dismiss. The longer he spoke, the quieter the room became. Waters shifted in her chair, adjusting her glasses again, this time less confidently. But Patel wasn't finished. He placed the paper back down and looked directly at her. "You mentioned loyalty, Congresswoman. Let me be clear. My loyalty has never been to a politician, or a party. My loyalty has been, and always will be, to the oath I swore to defend this country. If we want to talk about undermining trust in institutions, then perhaps we should acknowledge how grandstanding in hearings like this, where members attack witnesses not with evidence but with insinuations, does more damage to the public's faith than any intelligence assessment ever could." The words hung in the air like a hammer blow. Some of the audience broke into quiet applause before being hushed. Even a few members of Congress on the other side looked stunned. Waters blinked, trying to regain her footing. "Mr. Patel, don't you dare lecture this committee on how to conduct its oversight. You are here to answer questions, not to attack the integrity of elected officials." Patel didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. He simply leaned closer to the microphone and delivered the line that would echo across the internet within hours. "Respectfully, Congresswoman, integrity is earned. And in this room, it must be defended with facts, not theatrics." The silence that followed was deafening. Waters opened her mouth as if to fire back, but nothing came out. For a rare moment, she looked speechless. Cameras zoomed in, capturing every flicker of her expression. The clip would be replayed endlessly. Maxine Waters, the fierce interrogator, left without words by a witness she had tried to humiliate. Patel sat back in his chair, his demeanor unchanged, as though he hadn't just delivered the knockout line of the hearing. He picked up his pen again, jotting a note, while the room remained charged with the electricity of what had just happened. The chair of the committee awkwardly cleared his throat. "Order, please. We'll continue." But everyone knew the dynamic had shifted. For the rest of the session, Waters avoided direct confrontation with Patel. When she did speak, her tone was noticeably subdued. Meanwhile, Patel's testimony flowed with confidence, supported by documents and clear reasoning. By the end, even some of his harshest critics grudgingly admitted he had come prepared. Outside the hearing room, reporters swarmed. Clips of the exchange spread like wildfire. Social media lit up with hashtags. Hashtag Patel Clapback, hashtag Speechless Waters, hashtag Facts Over Theatrics. Some praised Patel as a model of composure and truth. Others accused him of being disrespectful. But one thing was undeniable: he had stolen the show. That night, pundits dissected the moment on every network. Some replayed Waters' silence on loop, laughing at how rare it was for her to be left without a retort. Others marveled at Patel's ability to stay cool under fire, to pivot an attack into a defense that not only cleared his name but also put his interrogator on the defensive. For Patel, the moment wasn't about going viral. In a quiet interview afterward, he reflected on it with characteristic calm. "Look," he said, "this isn't about me versus Congresswoman Waters. This is about the American people deserving truth. If our leaders focus more on scoring points than on solving problems, we all lose. I wasn't there to humiliate anyone, I was there to set the record straight. And that's what I did." Yet the irony was undeniable. In trying to humiliate him, Waters had handed Patel one of the most powerful public moments of his career. The following week, a poll surfaced showing that public trust in Patel's credibility had risen sharply, even among independents. Meanwhile, Waters faced uncomfortable questions about whether her style of interrogation was effective, or merely performative. In political circles, the hearing was remembered as a turning point, a lesson in how overconfidence and theatrics could backfire, especially when the target came armed with facts and composure. Months later, when Patel was invited to speak at a major conference on national security, the clip of that hearing was played as part of his introduction. The audience erupted in applause, not just for his service, but for the way he had handled one of Washington's fiercest critics. And in that moment, one truth stood clear: sometimes, the greatest victory comes not from raising your voice, but from refusing to let someone else define your character. Kash Patel had walked into the hearing ready for anything. Maxine Waters had walked in ready to put on a show. Only one of them left with their credibility enhanced. The other, for once, was left speechless.